But Rob, there's one place to start. It's Arsenal and Newcastle. Now, we need to talk about Arsenal's deficiencies, but I want to have a little bit of positivity corner here.
Absolutely.
Newcastle have won 7 games in a row. You're supposed to say something back to me when I say that.
Well, I was going to say, you could say they've won 7 games in a row. They're 5th in the league. They're doing brilliantly. They've got the most informed striker. They've got a wonder midfield. They've got a coach that knows what they're doing. They've got a fantastic support.
Do they have a coach who knows what they're doing? Because the guy who sits there normally, he's like, Eddie Howe,
I mean, he's not a flamboyant coach. He's not the guy that's going to go sliding down the touchline on his knees. He's not going to. I mean, I used to interview him when he was at Burnley. I don't think he's ever given an interesting quote in his life.
No, he really is incredibly boring when he talks.
But very,
to the
very
media,
straight-laced. And that's how his team are playing as well. They've crept up there. And I think when you say they've won 7 games in a row, and I did the homework this morning as well, you have to go back and double-check it and count it, because you can't quite believe how they've come up on the sly in the Premier League and now in the Cup at Arsenal as well.
It's such an odd season. And look, I mean, I think you can look at this and say, oh yeah, well, the injured guys and the suspended guys came back, and little by little, it kind of all came together nicely for them. And I think there's a lot to that. I think there's obviously there's other players who are, I think Kraft is close to full fitness as well. Pope is going to be out for a while, but other than that, Botman's only just returned. I mean, they're not going to challenge to the title. But when I look around, well, not this season anyway. You're making a face. But when I look around and I say, who do I like to make top 4, possibly top 5 in the Champions League next year? Newcastle surely have to be there, right?
Hey, they'll be in that frame. We'll talk about Liverpool later on, but Liverpool may have hit a bump in the road. They lost a game this week. Chelsea's saying they can't
Liverpool
win the
will
league.
be in the Champions League next year, or
but we're talking about the title, top 2, top 3. I think Newcastle will be in the frame. They don't have the distraction of European competition. They're on a high. As you say, they've got players coming back as well. They've almost got a shadow squad of players that are yet to come back into the team. As you say, they've done this without their first choice goalkeeper as well. They're preserving Isak, who's getting better and better, and they're managing his minutes well. Anthony Gordon is a player who's coming on like Cole Palmer down at Chelsea as well, maybe one of the best English players. And it's pure up there. What they're doing is fantastic. It's taken a while for them to bring the project to this level, but yeah, as you say, if we're starting in positivity corner, this is a great place to start. It's canny-like.
We got to go over to Arsenal now.
Oh dear!
And
back to negativity, going to the dark corner of the room. Yeah.
Well, I'm turning it around, right? Mm-hmm. And so it was not a good performance. I mean, we can all agree on that. Obviously, there's no Saka. Kai Havertz looks half fit. I think he had the flu or something earlier. He came back, started this game. Jurgen Timber misses a big chance. Martinelli puts a shot against the post. Mm-hmm. We could be telling a different story.
Yeah, Dubravka made a couple of good saves as well. Was it 23 attempts at goal that they had? Only, was it 3 or 4 of them hit the target? And they're blaming other forces, aren't they?
Yes, tell us about this.
They're blaming the ball.
Because for those who don't know, in the League Cup, for reasons, or at least in this game, for reasons I don't understand, they like to be different, the League Cup. So we only have VAR in the semifinals and final, and the referee's only allowed to speak in the semifinals and to explain decisions.
Yep.
So which I suppose is a big innovation.
Then only in the second game. He didn't in the first game. We were waiting for them.
Yeah, exactly. Whatever.
Actually, it's every competition has a different ball. You have different balls in the World Cup. You have different balls in the Champions League.
No, but this is the Football League ball.
Yeah.
That's what he's saying, right? So you have 2 Premier League teams playing with a Football League ball.
Yeah.
He says it's flightier. It's like a beach ball. This reminds me, every World Cup, like they introduce a new ball for sponsorship reasons, and they always start talking, and goalkeepers always complain about the ball. And you were a goalkeeper.
I was going to say,
is this nonsense?
No, you're absolutely no. In a previous life, as you know, I did play to a certain level as a professional goalkeeper, and you would find that the day before, say you're playing in the Youth Cup or you're playing the first team were playing, they bring out a different ball. They bring out the match ball. So the richer teams would train with the match ball all week. The poorer teams would just have these terrible battered old mitre multiplexes, or the ones that were like really hard and orange that used to sting your hands as well. So yes, there is an element of truth. Right. And it's not the first time that Arteta said it as well. He said it when he was at Man City.
All right, let's stick with Arsenal, because people here have heard my view of the challenge that he's facing, which I will briefly recap, which is that Arsenal have a plan A, which is Saka and Ødegaard, but obviously Saka's not there. They have a plan B, which is the set pieces, but obviously that hasn't materialized. I suppose plan C and D might be getting something from the left flank, but Martinelli's been, I think, not good when he's played. Trossard's gone off the boil a little bit. Marino, I think, was supposed to be some sort of creative alternative. Mm-hmm. That hasn't quite worked out. The Calafiori or Timber stepping into midfield hasn't quite worked out because those guys seem to be, injured one week, or then the next week they're back and whatever, and they go back out. It feels like there's no consistency, and now it's really just the set piece plan.
Yeah, I mean, let's face it, you said that is plan B, and they had enough set pieces and corners to score 3 or 4 goals against Newcastle the other night. It was just this flighty ball that the players just kept getting under when the ball came in. They were beating Newcastle, they were out thinking them out, manoeuvring them, but they didn't finish them off. And at that level of football, it does come down to the margins. In defence of Arsenal, they're without Saka, as you say, they're without Nwaneri, yes. And of course, Raheem Sterling. Nobody mentions him. They brought him in. He should be playing games as well, but he's in the shadows. He's been injured. Nobody quite knows what's going on.
He was
there
on the
either.
bench.
He was on the bench.
That's a good question. Are you surprised that?
Well, I looked up and it said the previous games he hasn't had an injury. But if he's on the bench, it suggests that he's fit. And if you're in a situation like that, you're bringing him on. But it seems to be a great mystery when he has played for Arsenal. He's done nothing for them, has he? So maybe that is the plan C that you should be talking about there, that when they've got this wonder kid and they've got Saka out of the team, that maybe Sterling should be coming in. So
my big concern for Arsenal at this stage, if I were an Arsenal fan, which I'm not, so they're second on the table now, level on points with two-time European champion Nottingham Forest. And obviously the Saka miss is huge, can't be overstated, but I think they've actually also been pretty fortunate that I think they have arguably the best or one of the best defensive partnerships around in Gabriel and William Saliba. And it feels like those guys have, they play all the time. Almost all the time. They've been extremely durable this season. I think they've both missed the odd game or two. But what happens if one of those guys get injured? We saw what happened when Saliba got injured, was it 2 years ago?
Yep.
And the bottom fell out. So it almost feels to me like there's more stuff that can go wrong, and he needs to find a solution now. He can't wait for Saka to return. Can you find an internal solution? I mean, what is the...
Bless you.
Sorry.
They're choking just like you, Gab. No,
exactly.
I don't think they are choking at the moment. I think it probably just comes down to fine margins. And you look at Man City, I think they've realised at the moment that they're having a problem. They're going out this week, and by the sounds of things, signing
we'll get to that
as well. But maybe that's what Arsenal need to do. Maybe they have to admit it and say, do you know what, we're maybe 1 player short or 2 players short if we are truly going to challenge Liverpool at the moment. But you could put the same argument to Liverpool if Van Dijk or Konate gets injured. But I don't think it's a major problem for Arsenal. They were so close against Newcastle United the other night, but it's that kind of that mid-January blues, isn't it?
They were close. They're at home, and obviously it's only the first leg. But getting out of a 2-goal hole at St. James's Park on a February midweek, not going to be easy. I guess leaving aside the results, and they have phenomenal players, and they can turn them around, and those chances were there. But my concern is, I think the evolution in play that we were looking for this season, I think he was looking for. I think he feels a little bit left down that he wasn't able to do that, because I go back to the plans of how Arsenal are going to create chances, right? Their plan C and D. And I look at it, and I don't want to say Marino's been a bust and just write him off. Mm-hmm. But he was supposed to be that other creative outlet, right? When we talk about creativity coming from Arsenal's midfield,
I've seen a lot of him in Spain. I think he's more of a destroyer than he is a creator. He's got the great goal at the Euros as well, and he can pop up with a goal every now and again. But I think he's a 4-goal a season kind of midfielder.
No, but I'm not talking him scoring goals, but I'm talking about him just balancing out on the left what Odegaard does on the right.
Yeah.
Because if it doesn't come from him, and obviously I love Georgie for obvious reasons, but he's older and there's other issues there, it's not going to come from Jorginho. Who else is going to offer that? The only other solution is your wingers on the left-hand side.
Yeah. I hear what you're saying. Yeah, they're probably playing in a safe mode, aren't they? When you think about Arsenal, they've not found that other dimensions this season. You look at it, and maybe you look back 12 months ago, and it's probably same old, and there's not that little button that he can flick, and he doesn't have somebody as he looks alongside him on the bench. You know, the kid came in, did brilliantly, but now he's out of the team. So they probably need some inspiration, somebody to come through that you're not quite expecting. But I don't think the likes of Martinelli has gone on. Gab Jesus isn't giving them the goals.
Let's not go through with Jesus.
Yeah. But maybe they've got to bite the bullet. Maybe they've got to bite the bullet and go out and bring in another dimension from outside.
In terms of Newcastle, again, I want to remind everybody that they may be owned by the Public Investment Fund of Saudi Arabia, and they have a ton of money, and they're bringing all the players in the Saudi Pro League, but they've been run as a business. They have generally lived within their means. Yeah, obviously, the Salah sponsorship is a little silly, but whatever. It's still within. They haven't gone out and spent a ton of money.
Yeah.
They've kind of weathered that change of director of football, which some people say didn't sit great with Eddie Howe, with Paul Mitchell coming in. It feels as if though this run has come together. But it feels to me a little bit like, is this the kind of football Eddie Howe wants to play and can only play now that he has people fit? He has Tonali, that midfield in particular, the Joelinton, Tonali, Bruno midfield, which obviously Bruno wasn't there, but at the Emirates.
Yeah.
Jules thinks it's the best midfield in the Premier League alongside Liverpool.
I may not go as far as saying it's the best midfield. But
Give me a better trio.
What I may
Give me
say,
a better trio. Give me a better trio.
Yeah. Well, what I would say is maybe the most informed, and it's the trio that the manager, the coach is getting the absolute maximum out of week in, week out. He's taken Joelinton to a whole new level. Gordon is doing brilliantly as well. But remember, they could have had Elliot Anderson. To balance the books, he had to go to Nottingham Forest. They could be even better in there as well. But in terms of working together and understanding each other and being able to go forward, which they do, but also then having the humility at Newcastle United sometimes to sit back and realise they're not maybe a top 3, top 4 team, and sometimes to kind of roll with the punches as well. So maybe they're not the most outstanding midfield trio, but I don't think there's a trio that's playing better together at the moment. I'd agree with Jules there.
I was interested in seeing what are the knocks on Tonali at Milan, or even before that. When he came through at Brescia, he had the long floppy hair. He could strike a ball, and people said, the new Pirlo, right? Because obviously Pirlo came from Brescia, and we in the media tend to be stupid and like, oh, look, he looks a little like him, plays this, And then in Milan, they became convinced that, you're not only are you not Pirlo, you're not a Pirlo type. You're not the playmaker in front of the back four. You can play in the half space to the side of the three, and obviously that's not why they sold him. They sold him because they got an enormous offer from Newcastle, and they would have gladly kept him. But it was interesting to me that in this game, he chose to put him in that playmaking role in front of the back four. That may have to do with Bruno's absence, but I think he's also played there when Bruno was fit as well. Can he do that? Or can he do that in a game like this where Newcastle away from home, they're obviously going to be much more defensive, much more counterattacking oriented. And so, you're really hitting the ball in transition. You're not being pressed in the same way.
I mean, clearly, yes, because, as you say, he's an excellent footballer. I think it's taken until maybe the last couple of months for Newcastle and their supporters and everybody in the Premier League and in the English game to see what a good player he is. You guys know in Italy, he comes with a big reputation as well, but obviously had a tough start to life in the Northeast. Guimaraes is the man that catches the eye when he's playing. He's the star of the team with his flicks and his tricks. And maybe Tonali's been happy to sit back and to play in his shadows. But as you say, he's an international, almost world-class player as well. And it gives Howe that option of maybe the two of them just taking it in turns to have a little go and playing that 10 role behind Alexander Isak. And again, we're looking at dimensions of teams. It does maybe give another dimension to Newcastle United that is a project as a club, but as a team as well, is also building Lego bricks, brick by brick, seeing what the players can do, finding out what Tonali is actually capable of. But again, maybe they've played in the safe mode, but maybe now he's taking a few risks as well. Then you've got the likes of Jacob Murphy there as well, who many people would have thought was a championship player, but he's now arguably one of the most informed kind of wide players in the Premier League.
as is the other wide player. You mentioned him before, Anthony Gordon, and who you made an analogy with Cole Palmer. Which because I'm it's Positivity Monday.
Yeah.
I did not jump down your throat when you said, like, I wanted to say, like, wash your mouth out with soap before you mentioned those two in the same sentence. But then I was thinking, you are on to something in the sense that when he gets the ball and he takes off, I mean, a very different profile to Palmer, obviously, right? He does have that threat about him, and he's so relentless. Like, he keeps running and running and running, and he's got some quality as well.
Yeah, I mean, I saw Cole Palmer a lot at Manchester City when he wasn't getting games. I saw a lot of Gordon when he was coming through at Everton.
Still comparing Palmer and Gordon.
Yeah, but they are. They're of a similar age. They're of a similar development. The other thing about Gordon, he's playing at Newcastle, and they're a very, very good team, and I love Newcastle, I love the fans. But there's a lot of talk of him going to Liverpool. If he went to Liverpool, he would take his game up to another level. Maybe to the level that you're talking about of Cole Palmer. I don't think there's a great deal between them. I think Palmer's a brilliant player. Maybe the best English player in the Premier League at the moment, but Anthony Gordon isn't far behind.
Since you have needlessly linked Anthony Gordon to Everton, to Liverpool, obviously he has an Evertonian past. You're more familiar with the area than I am.
Yeah.
Does that not matter to anybody?
Does
that not matter to him?
I believe, I'm told by my son who understands these things, that he was a Liverpool fan as a kid, and there have been a number of great Liverpool players that were Everton fans as a kid. Carragher, Fowler, McManaman, I think. We'll find out later in the day. It really doesn't matter on Merseyside. It's what colour you bleed at the end of the day, at the end of your career.
Right. Which is why Don Hutchinson, of course, got away with it. We've only mentioned him in passing, Alexander Isak right now. How good is he really? Obviously, he's scoring a lot, whatever. But I look at his career and I wonder if there isn't something to the fact that center forwards who have this unusual skill set in the sense that he's a very big man, but he's also athletic and he's also very comfortable on the ball. Their progress when you play center forward isn't always linear, right? Because he was hugely hyped as a kid. Kind of a bust at Borussia Dortmund. You know, let's
didn't
be
quite
fair.
live up to the expectations at Dortmund, did it? Then came to Spain and played for Real Sociedad.
And did better there. But also I kind of felt that, like, when he moved to Newcastle, it was kind of like, all right, we're buying potential more than, I mean, he was still 22, I think, when he moved. Did you see this development happening? Could you see that in there?
If I'm really, really honest, he was a good player when he was at Real Sociedad. He scored goals, but he also missed a lot as well. As you say, he's athletic. He has the pace to get past. He's got a quick brain as well. But he would get into positions, and then sometimes he'd be a little bit lost. If you told me that, 2-3 years later, be playing for Newcastle United at the top end of the Premier League, and Newcastle be saying, if you want to buy him, you've got to pay the buyout clause of £150 million, apparently. And nobody's considering that, but teams are considering him. But when you look at the goals that he's been scoring, 14 goals in his last 15 matches, they're coming naturally. He's getting the ball, he's clipping it. He's almost started the celebration before the ball has left his boot. And you see other strikers who are going through a bit of a process at the moment, maybe even the likes of Erling Haaland, who's proving to be human at the moment. Lewandowski over at Barcelona, one of the greatest scorers of all time. But they're thinking, and they've got the weight of the world on their shoulders. But he does seem to have got to this level. How long it will last, I'm not sure, where he believes he's going to score every time he's in a 50-50 or a 40-60 against him in a one-on-one with a goalkeeper. But again, yes, he has surprised me. I've seen his development in Spain, commentating on him many, many weeks, and I can't believe he's got to this level.
All right, this is the part I hate when people ask me this question, so I won't answer. I'm just going to chuck it at you.
Okay.
Percentage chance that Newcastle will be playing in the UEFA Champions League next season?
Next season?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to go 95%.
95%?
Yeah. I'd say 100, but I just want to leave a little bit of candidate in there in case something happens up there. Yeah. Champions League, top 4? Yeah, Newcastle, absolutely, yeah.
Could be top 5 even.
Could be, yeah.
All right. Yeah. So here you go. So Forest fans, I think he's the one. I think you're the club that he thinks is going to drop out. So
I'm not saying Forest aren't going to be there. You didn't ask the percentage of Forest. We'll get on to that later on as well.
Fair point there.